The titles have been decided, but the final curtain call of the 2017 Formula One season takes place beneath a setting sun on the outskirts of Abu Dhabi. Having crossed the continents, F1's final showdown is in the Middle East at what was the original twilight race when it joined the calendar back in 2009. It's a purpose-built facility on Yas Island, and it's a power-hungry circuit for the first two-thirds of the lap, and speeds climb in excess of 200 miles an hour on both of the long straights. But the final third is technical and challenging, puts a lot of demand on the rear tyres as the drivers skirt the barriers surrounding the vast hotel complex that spans the asphalt in that area. Both of the sport's 4 times champions, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, have won here 3 times in the past, but both were beaten in a straight fight in qualifying by the other Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas, who's on pole last time in Brazil, only to lose out at the start. This evening, everybody will have the target of finishing off the season strongly and try and take a psychological boost into the off-season. But in the midfield, there's still one crucial battle going on that could well be worth an extra $7 million or so to the team that comes out on top. Renault are seeking to overturn a 4-point advantage held by Toro Rosso, and if Nico Hülkenberg can hold on to 7th position, the 7th place that he earned in qualifying, the French team will have earned itself the perfect Christmas bonus. Well, let's see if they can do that. And we're going to be watching that midfield battle closely, while also seeing what's going to happen up front here between Mercedes and Ferrari, with Valtteri Bottas starting from pole position ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. That's how they line up, with Bottas on his 4th pole position of the year and Lewis Hamilton on his 13th front row. That's one less, funnily enough, than Sebastian Vettel, who on this occasion lines up behind him, with Daniel Ricciardo starting in 4th place for Red Bull. Kimi Raikkonen is 5th on the grid, just 7 points behind Ricciardo. Max Verstappen is 6th on the grid. There is Nico Hülkenberg in that crucial 7th place at the moment, ahead of Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon, with Felipe Massa completing the top 10 in the Williams. With tyre choice, it's Fernando Alonso, although he has gone for the ultra-soft tyre as well. 11th place for him, 12th for Carlos Sainz. How often we've seen those two fighting each other. 13th for Stoffel van Dorn, 14th for Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. Then it's Lance Stroll, bit of a disappointing qualifying for the Canadian. He's 15th, Romain Grosjean is 16th in the Haas, and they're followed by Pierre Gasly for Toro Rosso and Pascal Wehrlein, who may well be going into his last Grand Prix. We don't know yet. He's in the Sauber, a bit faster than his teammate Marcus Ericsson in qualifying. And then right at the back, he was the slowest qualifier anyway, Brendan Hartley, with new engine parts as well, giving him an extra penalty, but it doesn't make any difference at all. So everybody getting ready for this final shootout of the season. Best seats in the house are full, and everybody just wondering, is Lewis Hamilton going to be able to find a way into that first corner to get ahead of Valtteri Bottas? But let's not forget, Bottas was beaten off the line in Brazil just 2 weeks ago. He won't want that to happen again. So the Finn will be determined to try and hold on in there. And Daniel Ricciardo, he's always one to watch. Always super late on the brakes. Some fantastic overtaking performances that he's put on throughout the course of this year. His teammate Max Verstappen lines up directly behind him as well. So the two Red Bulls should be very close to one another in the opening laps. So we are getting all set for the final showdown of the season as Mercedes and Ferrari go wheel to wheel for the last time in 2017. the third time this year. Two silver cars dominate the front row as the cars go away on the formation lap. But on the two previous occasions that we've had where the Mercedes have been 1-2 on the grid this year, neither Bottas nor Hamilton have gone on to win the race. So that's a little bit of a concerning statistic for Mercedes, but I think everybody is away cleanly here and setting off on the final formation lap of the season. Vettel should finish second in the championship. The outside possibility that if Bottas wins this race but Vettel fails to finish, then Bottas could snatch that second place. And then keep an eye on Ricciardo and Raikkonen. 7 points separating those two. Further down the order, Massa just in the top 10. He may well hang on in his final season to finish in 10th, just 2 points ahead of his teammate. And then it's the midfield constructors battle that we'll also be watching for. Let's get a final word before this race begins from Karun.
Yeah, Ben, these guys all weaving around really aggressively because the track temperature is falling, so it's so important to get those front tyres switched on for the opening sector of the lap. Track position here, just ask Mark Webber or Fernando Alonso from 2010. It isn't easy to overtake here, although these guys do have DRS now. But that opening lap and getting the tyres switched on straight after the pit stop, massively critical this weekend.
4 points separate Toro Rosso and Renault. But if Hülkenberg finishes where he starts this race in 7th place, that would be enough for Renault to snatch that place in the Constructors' Championship and earn themselves that extra $7 million or so. So it's so crucial. And funnily enough, Hülkenberg has finished 7th here the last couple of years from qualifying 7th. But all the times he's qualified 7th this year, he hasn't managed to finish that high up. So let's see what Hülkenberg achieves on this occasion. In terms of victories here, it's 3-all, Vettel versus Hamilton, and just single wins for Kimi Raikkonen back in 2012 and for Nico Rosberg, who is here watching this weekend, the 2016 world champion who won his title here last year, of course, in that enthralling race where Hamilton won the race but tried to slow them all down behind to get Rosberg overtaken. But Rosberg held on. And here we go then, David. Everybody now preparing for the final race.
Yeah, and as we were watching the cars go around to the grid, we went on board briefly with Felipe Massa, who was exaggerating the amount of steering input he was putting into the car to try and excite some front wheel and front tyre temperature. As you see Lance Stroll's mother and sister there nervously waiting for the start. All of the cars, it's a relatively short run from the last corner to the grid, as it is from the grid to the first corner. So we don't expect that the pole man Bottas will have to sit there for too long. No cooling on these cars, of course, and any temperature you gain at the start can take away horsepower. But I think we're set up for a pretty interesting start. It doesn't end at turn 1. The battle can continue all the way down into that final overtaking point at turn 11.
Brendan Hartley bringing up the rear of the grid in the Toro Rosso. It's Marcus Ericsson and Brendan Hartley at the back. But up front, it's Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton for the final time in 2017. And for the last time with entirely open cockpits in Formula One, the grid prepares for the start of the Grand Prix. Lights out, away we go, and it's a fairly even start. I think Bottas has got it. Bottas should be in front as they turn into the first corner. Oh, a little lock up from Vettel and Ricciardo. Trying to get alongside, but he can't quite do it, and he's got Raikkonen chasing, and then Verstappen.
Yeah, indeed, and Hamilton went a bit deep as well as he tried to make sure he defended against the Ferrari, so that will just give Bottas a bit of breathing room.
Oh, car spins. Yeah, it is where Magnussen in the Haas in that midfield pack. Important that he was going to try and pick up some points, but he is going to rejoin. So up front it is Bottas from Hamilton, and battle going on with Verstappen trying to get past Kimi Raikkonen, but it didn't quite come off.
Yeah, that might well make Verstappen vulnerable to Hülkenberg behind. Alonso lines up a Force India. Can a Honda overtake a Mercedes-powered car? Doesn't look like it.
Meanwhile, look at Ricciardo defending, and there's another opportunity for Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg side by side with Perez. Ocon as well, as they try and go through. Perez is ahead of Hülkenberg. Of course, he wants that 7th place, Hülkenberg. We had another car straight lining the chicane, and here comes Raikkonen on Ricciardo now, trying to go down the outside. I think he might do it, but then Ricciardo's so deep on the brakes.
Yeah, Ricciardo is exceptional on the brakes, so I've got to imagine in my mind's eye that Raikkonen, although he had the slipstream, he was forced to go to the outside. I think he knew what was going to happen once it got to the braking in turn 11.
And it's allowed Verstappen to get really close in again, hasn't it? So Raikkonen's now got to watch his mirrors for the youngster behind Bottas, Hamilton and Vettel top three. Then Ricciardo, Raikkonen, and behind, I think Hulkenberg's got back in front, hasn't he, into that vital 7th place that he really wants for the Renault team. Yeah, look, there's the yellow car for Hulkenberg, and he's got himself ahead of Perez and Ocon. The two Force Indias, I do believe, are allowed to race again after their little contacts earlier in the year when they were told they had to hold station, that the championship for them, 4th place in the championship, is well settled, so they could well race hard. Perez, Ocon, chased by Massa, and then you've got Alonso, who is in 11th place as we go on board with Verstappen, chasing after the Ferrari of Raikkonen.
Hulkenberg got the corner.
He pushed me off the track.
Oh.
He made me run wide there.
Okay, Nico, understood.
Arguments going on already. So Hulkenberg cut the corner, but he's saying, I got pushed. We'll take another look at it in a moment, David, I'm sure, but it could be very important. Alonso has a little lock-up, and he's under pressure from Sainz, and then Stroll, who's up to 13th, so he's made a couple of places since the start.
Yeah, Alonso knows he desperately needs to try and keep in the slipstream of the Williams of Massa if he's going to have any chance of defending against Sainz. Look at how much the Williams pulls away in a straight line. Visible example of just how poor that Honda is through and down the straights.
Last race for McLaren with the Honda engine. Next year it'll have the Renault motor that's in the back of the car behind him, although it'll be a new version of the engine, of course.
He needs to give back the position, man. He needs to give back the position.
Understood. Yeah, Charlie is aware. Understood.
Well, let's see. It is an important decision to be made. Hopefully we'll get another look. We know that Brendan Hartley was the car that we did see straight lining the chicane on that opening lap. Another little bit of off-road, didn't make too much difference. Hartley, though, has come up from the back, courtesy of Magnussen's spin. And, well, certainly very interesting to see what's going to happen here as Alonso at the back of that top 10 group. Still in the hunt there, but, yeah, Massa just heading that little group for this point. He's in 10th position, trying to score points in his last ever Formula 1 Grand Prix. Van Dorn going ever so wide there in the last couple of corners.
Yeah, the amount of dust he'll pick up on his tyres, he'll be pretty slow off the last turn. But thankfully for him, it's a short run, as we've already said, down into turn 1.
So Bottas fastest at the moment and pulling away to a 1.5-second gap over Lewis Hamilton, and that's important, of course, because DRS is now enabled. So if they're within a second of each other, it'll be slightly easier to use that to overtake down the two main straights. The two Force Indias running 8th and 9th, then Massa and Alonso chased by Sainz, Stroll in 13th, Grosjean's in 14th, then Van Dorn and Gasly. Pascal Wehrlein next up. All 20 cars are still running, despite the spin for Magnussen early on, and despite the odd car cutting a corner, everybody's still in this race. And Alonso just checking his mirrors as he heads down towards the chicane, but Sainz nowhere near him on the approach to the corner on this occasion. Still no change up front. Hamilton within 1.2 seconds of his teammates, going to have to think about this and bide his time. And the incident involving Hulkenberg under investigation for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, so it will be looked at. And if that's the case, now he's left it a long time, he won't be able to just give the position back. He will, if they decide he's guilty, David, they will give him a penalty. Yeah,
they'll add time to either his next pit stop, or if they take a particularly long time to make that decision, they can add the time, of course, after the race.
What's going on with Charlie, man?
It's with the stewards. It's with the stewards. Tell us what happened.
They don't have to be a genius to realize that he got the corner and he gained an advantage.
Well, we certainly haven't seen the pictures yet. No doubt they've got other pictures they can use as well. Static cameras around the circuit.
Interestingly, from our commentary box, I can see Charlie Whiting walking down the outside of the pit lane. So he's not even in with the stewards right now.
Well, of course, yeah, it seems to be a while since he was on the starter gantry. He always controls the start. So maybe it'll take a little time to work out what's happened. On board here with Max Verstappen, then he's still in 6th place behind Kimi Raikkonen. And he struggled this weekend a little bit, has the winner of 2 races in recent events. But now we're settling into the race. He'll be getting a feel for the car in these conditions.
Well, I don't know if it's any coincidence, but it's the first time he's had his new girlfriend at a Grand Prix. So maybe his focus divided somewhat, but in fairness, Daniel has never been out-qualified by a teammate on this track, and there are just some circuits that drivers particularly feel that the circuit's been designed for them, and there you can see 5-second time penalty for Hulkenberg.
Yeah, so for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, that has a big effect, because remember, he's chasing that 7th place to give Renault the edge on Toro Rosso in the Constructors' Championship, plus 5 seconds would drop him back. Let's take a look at the whole start sequence again.
Hamilton's initial getaway was better than Valtteri's, but then as it sort of played out through the initial gear changes, then Valtteri was able to make that work. Hamilton a little bit slow on getting onto full power, and that's what just gave Valtteri a bit of a breathing space. Look at that, Hamilton initially is pulling up the position. Look at the Renault of Hülkenberg off the line was very poor. And then let's just keep an eye on Magnussen. He gets pushed wide, he's going to be the spinner. So you can see immediately he's gone wide onto the AstroTurf, picking up dust on his tyres. So when he rejoins the circuit, there you go, trying to avoid contact with Lance Stroll, then goes into a spin. He'll have flat-spotted tyres. So just a little bit too brave on the outside there, got squashed by Van Dorn. And then as you can see, he's going wheel to wheel with the Williams. Well,
it's the second race in a row that he's had an incident on the first lap.
Yeah, I guess that's their big opportunity. But this is what happened with Hülkenberg and Perez. So this is down into braking zone at turn 11. Yeah, he's if he's gained that position, he's definitely gained an advantage. You know, Perez was defending the line, Hülkenberg was locked up.
Yeah,
I know it's easy for Nico to say he pushed me wide, but actually he accelerated through the corner. He took a gamble, but straight away probably would have been less costly to have just given that position back. Hindsight being a wonderful thing, especially in racing.
Yeah, well, we'll see how much of a gap he can pull out over them, but he is beginning to open it up a little bit. 3 seconds at the moment, so we're coming up to 3 seconds, so that is what he's got to do now, is just open up that gap as much as he possibly can.
No rear grip. Is there anything I can do? Copy, Stoffel, we see that.
No rear grip, is there anything I can do? We can see that, but not much in the way of suggestions as to what to do about it. Quite difficult, of course, for the team to do much at this stage, with the cars all out there. Right, let's get a word from Karun. Karun, any thoughts on the kind of early laps here and sort of the movers and shakers, perhaps, from the original start?
Yeah, just look at the Magnussen spin. I think he got in the disturbed air, wasn't it? It was amazing. You could see straight away when Stroll got slightly in his path that the turbulence just caused him to spin, and that just shows how sensitive these Formula One cars are to the wind. The race has settled down a little bit, and I think when you look at it, obviously Magnussen, the big loser, Van Dorn has gone back a little bit as well, but up at the front, top 6 have all kind of stayed status quo. Just looking at Verstappen, because he's the one who's struggled all weekend really for pace. But he's not doing too bad. He's hanging on to the DRS zone of Kimi Raikkonen.
I can tell you that McLaren did come back to Stoffel with some suggestions. Difficult to help with the diff, they've said. That is a setting the driver can change. We can go forward on brake balance, but risk front locking. So there are a couple of little things that can be changed, David. They're obviously working through that together, but it sounds like Van Dorn is struggling a bit.
Yeah, in terms of aerodynamic change, we can see it as a big lunge.
Look at this from Grosjean. Yeah, Grosjean down the inside of Stroll from quite a long way back, but he had DRS to help him. And Haas are still with a very outside chance of changing their constructor's position as well. Now, of course, Lance Stroll has the advantage of the DRS next up, and he just sweeps back past and completes the manoeuvre. So this could go on for a little while.
Yeah, that's the nice counter of having DRS on one straight versus the next. Into this next section, it'll be very difficult for the Haas to do anything now. This is into the sort of street circuit section, so it's pretty much follow the leader.
Yeah, I thought for a moment that he was going to have a little look up the inside there, but probably wouldn't have worked. Carlos Sainz going through just ahead of this too, so you're looking at 13th and 14th place battle. Fastest lap for Bottas, who is now, what, 1.6 seconds ahead of Hamilton. That's not very much at all. Both of them pulling away still from Vettel. Take another look at this.
A little bit late move there from Lance. You know, rules are very clear from a safety point of view that you've got to make your defence before you see the other car move. You can see he sort of watched Grosjean and then made a move. In fairness, he did leave enough space, and the pass was executed. And you know, mother and daughter, I think their emotions are running higher than their son out in the car. It always feels better to be in the car and a sense of feeling like you're in control rather than watching from the outside.
Well, there's Carlos Sainz. He's staying on the tail of Alonso quite happily at the moment, and when it comes to the pit stops, it may well be that the Renault will be able to jump the McLaren. Let's see. Meanwhile, Stroll's got the task again of trying to defend from the Haas of Romain Grosjean. Now, Grosjean's given away a little bit.
Can you give me some more information, please, Luca? You're really very quiet.
Diff entry 2, mid 2. We are checking, Lance.
So obviously some discussion going on. Not quite sure exactly what he needs at the moment, but making some settings changes from inside the car. Stroll managing to protect so far, but is Grosjean going to time it differently? He's coming down to the end of the second straight, but I don't think he's quite close enough. No, and Stroll is able to take his normal racing line through that sequence. Does tend to use that inner curve quite hard, but the car responds reasonably well through there.
A good visual from there, and you see the red light flashing on the back of the Williams, and that's telling you that at that point there's a reduction in electrical energy, and usually a good indication for the driver behind to know whether this closing speed, assuming that he's still got electrical energy to deploy, will give you that chance to then have a bit of a lunge in the braking zone. They quite evenly match these two cars and drivers, don't they, at this phase of the Grand Prix?
Indeed, the sun beginning to set now as this race continues. We're only on lap 8 out of 55. And up front, Lewis Hamilton is trying to chase down the race leader, Valtteri Bottas. The gap, 1.8 seconds. Now, David, how does Hamilton approach this phase of the race? He's under 2 seconds behind his teammate. He's got to think about his tyres, presumably.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a big drop-off in the performance of the tyre in terms of degradation, but they're on the Ultra right now. They'll go to the Super. We expect one stop this afternoon. And what will be interesting is to see whether the Hamilton team within the Mercedes team look for a gap in the traffic and then bring Hamilton in early to try and exploit the undercut, get some new tyres on. Right now, if he was to pit, he would come out behind Ocon in 9th, probably in front of Massa. And so he'd be into a whole bunch of slower traffic. It's going to be quite a few more laps before we expect to see anyone coming in. But if Bottas doesn't pit, then Hamilton has the right to then head to the pits and say, I'm in, boys, I'm coming for a service. So the inter-team cat and mouse battle right now, Toto told us they're racing, they want them to race, so that includes the strategy guys.
Quite a wide approach into the corner there from Grosjean. They have been told that that dotted line that he was kind of crossing on the way into the corner is marking the track edge, so they won't want to see them running all four wheels over that too much. But Grosjean still trying to find some clear air, obviously, when he's behind the other car, so that his car is disturbed a little less. Still very close between Alonso and Sainz here.
Yeah, this is one of the more tricky phases of the race as we get into the sun setting. And you've not quite had your eyes adapt to the reduction in light. The circuit lighting around doesn't really have the chance to really take over. So with that low sun, especially as the drivers come down into turn 15, 16, the sun's in their eyes, then, well, you've just got to deal with that as another challenge.
I will try at the minute to close the gap and have a go, Kimmy. Let's try and have a go.
Well, that means don't worry about your tyres, don't worry about anything else. We're going to give you, presumably, a bit more horsepower to play with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That will be a straightforward message. If you want to use engine modes that deploy more power, let's use it at this phase of the race. They're obviously not wanting to sort of sit back and find themselves still running behind Raikkonen, Ricciardo later in the race.
Well, let's see whether he is able to close the gap there. Looking at the times, Ricciardo's still quicker. Grosjean comes down the outside this time, trying to sweep around the outside of Lance Stroll. Has he got enough space? Yes. Oh, but doesn't quite hold it on the apex. And Stroll is back ahead.
Well, that was smart driving there from Stroll. That was he read that situation. And Grosjean overshot, but here he comes with DRS. Stroll will take the inside. Holds the position. But that was great. That was instinctive racing from Lance, and we've not, other than Baku, where he had an exceptional weekend and picked up that podium, it's actually been a fairly low-key first season in Formula One. But great to see that in the heat of battle, he knew exactly where to position his car.
Yeah, his racecraft, a couple of times we saw him hold off Massa in the closing stages of the Italian Grand Prix as well. So his racecraft is pretty good when he's in a close fight like this. So I wonder what Grosjean can manage to do to find somewhere else to overtake, perhaps. There's not many other places here. This last section, you're following a car losing downforce on your own machine and sliding more as a result, and the tyres are taking the punishment as well. They've completed another lap, so we're on to lap 10 now, with Bottas still in control up front. Hamilton in second, Vettel in third place, Ricciardo in fourth, being chased by Raikkonen, who is just beginning to pick up the pace a little bit now. As we take another look at this, David.
Yeah, again, down into the braking at the end of the first DRS zone, so Romain's got the position, but just carries too much speed into the apex of the right hand, and it's good. Lance is moving a little bit too late for my liking in the braking zone. There's been no incident so far, but you can see he read exactly what Grosjean was going to do, and that was a clever move on the cutback.
Well, both hit the curb pretty hard there, launching the cars in the air.
Yeah, well, these cars, neither of them are winning cars, and I suspect both the drivers haven't really got much love for them. So last Grand Prix of the season.
Grosjean's trying pretty hard, put the power down a bit too hard there in the back end, stepping out a little bit. Don't think he's going to be quite close enough to have a go this time. So Lance Stroll will be able to take the full width of the road. Here's the dotted line just down the end here. That's kind of marking the edge of the track. Just got to be careful not to go over that too much.
So embarrassing when my ship is parked right in front of the circuit there. I did ask the captain to keep it out of camera angle.
Hamilton's just set fastest lap now, but the gap has remained much the same between the top two. It's still 1.8 seconds. They're lapping within a few hundredths of a second each other. The two Mercedes, though, clearly have the advantage over Ferrari here. We haven't seen too many events like that this year so far.
You need to obey turn 11 dotted line. Don't go on the other side of the dotted line.
I can crash if they want, but honestly, I'm starting to be a bit fed up with their rules.
I'm starting to be fed up with their rules. Well, they make the rules, Romain, so you kind of have to go with it. And it was the dotted line I was talking about on the approach to that left-hander down at the end of the second straight. They've been warned in the final instructions, so it's fair enough to be given that message.
Just looking at Hamilton and Bottas going through camera shot, or more accurately, Bottas then Hamilton, there's a number of strategies as we get later in this race that Hamilton could deploy. Bottas, if we assume he comes in for his, what we expect to be only stop, first, he'll turn up the wick the lap before in terms of engine mode and really drive the last of those tyres before heading to the pits. Hamilton will know that, he'll see it, he'll be told by his engineer. He can do the same and then continue another lap with the sort of qualifying mode.
Here we go again. Grosjean down the outside this time, little lock up. Oh, it's tight, it's tight. Oh, this time he might have done it, but still on the exit. Lance Stroll will have good power off the chicane. So can Grosjean now defend? He's going to have to go tight to the inside. Stroll comes back. Oh, look at the way he sweeps back past. But now it's not over yet. Grosjean tries to go around the outside. Oh, fabulous stuff. And I think he's done it this time.
Well, give that man a biscuit or a lollipop or whatever his reward should be. That was fantastic. The two of them are driving like their careers depend on it. Beautiful driving. I really thought when we saw them going through the chicane, it was all queuing up for an episode of Moments from Disaster.
Indeed, but they did drive through there cleanly. Good stuff, as you say. Little lock up from Stroll. You can see those brake discs really beginning to glow at certain corners now as we go into the night time here in Abu Dhabi. But Romain Grosjean's fought hard and he's now moved himself into 13th position. Oh, in comes Stroll.
Very early stop.
Flat-spotted tyre, perhaps, was that the reason?
Yeah, well, we didn't see any big lock-up, but it could well be. We haven't heard any radio information on it, but two stops, then I've got to assume, unless they're just going to do a very long second stint.
Well, the tyres are capable of this kind of distance, but by the end of the race, of course, he will have lost some performance in them.
There's also, where will he come out in terms of traffic? He will come out, well, as far as I can see, right at the back of the field.
Yeah. So there's going to be a long afternoon or evening for him. So he's back out on his way. Two major flat spots we're hearing were reported.
Tell me the distance with Massa on the start-finish line. Every lap.
Yep, okay, understood.
So Alonso still trying to keep that challenge on Felipe Massa. These two raced hard, of course, last time out in Brazil, and they both knew going into this one it was going to be another tough race, but it has allowed Alonso to draw away a bit from Sainz. He's managed to get out of DRS range for the moment of the Renault, but he's still in 11th place.
That is a little surprising. I know there's different phases of a Grand Prix, and certainly with the cars being relatively heavy on fuel through these first 13 laps, then maybe Sainz is just not quite as comfortable in playing a slightly longer game, keeping out of any turbulent air from Alonso. But on pure pace, you would expect the Renault to be more than a match for Alonso and the McLaren.
If Sainz could possibly get into the top 10, that would massively help Renault's hopes of passing Toro Rosso. Hulkenberg, by the way, talking of Renault and trying to pass Toro Rosso, Hulkenberg's got that 5-second advantage now over Perez. So between 7th and 8th, Hulkenberg and Perez over 5 seconds. We know that Hulkenberg's got a 5-second penalty when he does make his pit stop, but he's really going for it here in this early stint. Now, whether the Renault will look after its tyres sufficiently to maintain this pace, it has been a problem for them earlier in the year. Cars got better and better, though, as we've gone through the season, so we'll have to wait and see. So Stroll's made a pit stop, as we know. Van Dorn's just come in. What are your thoughts, Corinne?
Yeah, I think these guys are doing the early stop to try and get that free air. As David mentioned, Stroll's rejoined last. But he had 9 seconds of free air to Ericsson in front of him, so that was his opportunity to do some really quick laps here and gain some track position.
Looks if you can take turn 9 in second gear, turn 9 second gear, just see a bit of turbo vibration there.
Turn 9 in second gear, bit of turbo vibration. Of course, just a reminder, David, Lewis has gone through every race this year, scored points in every single race. He would become the 3rd world champion to score in every race of a season, title-winning season, that is, if he can do it. Let's hope that he doesn't have any problems in the closing stages.
Well, let's hope not. It would be a great testament to what's been a great season for the Mercedes team. But it's the first time we've had that terminology, or certainly I recall hearing that terminology about the turbo vibration. So it'll just put the engine into a different RPM. And, well, I'm going to assume you might have been using 3rd gear rather than 1st through there, so you've now decided you want to put a wee bit more RPM on the engine by using 2nd.
And of course there's always the other explanation that they use code words to talk about something else, so they try and confuse us and their opposition, of course, by saying something when they actually mean something quite different. But still watching this battle for 10th between Massa and Alonso. We always get some glorious shots of sunset here in Abu Dhabi, and Alonso is one of the most tigerish drivers out there in Formula One. He never gives up. He always applies his maximum. That's one of his great strengths in many ways. Even he will admit he's not always the fastest over a single lap in qualifying, but it's that ability to relentlessly chase laps during the race that is amazing.
Well, I think that skill is something that Michael Schumacher, who's the most successful driver in terms of championships, I believe, in my opinion, it was his ability to deliver lap after lap throughout the entire Grand Prix, like Alonso, that really gave him his strength rather than his outright single lap speed. And certainly Michael was a great pole achiever, but we see his time alongside with Massa and various other drivers. There were days where they were very comfortably able to match him.
Just a quick note that Raikkonen, who was given that call to try and catch Ricciardo, really hasn't changed the gap at all between 4th and 5th. So the Red Bull stays in 4th. Daniel Ricciardo hoping for a podium finish this weekend. Now, which of the 2 Red Bulls is going to be first into the pits here? It is relatively early. It's Verstappen who's come in. So Ricciardo staying out there for the moment in that 4th position. Could be tough for Red Bull to get a podium out of this one. Let's watch the pit stop, and away goes Verstappen. That was very, very well executed.
I wonder if they're just seeing an opportunity to get out in front of Massa. It could be quite tight, but let's just see where he goes back out on track. Massa's coming through the last corner now, and I think he will comfortably get out in front of that battle. So they've just seen that window of opportunity, and, well, they've got Ocon up the road next, but you can see he's been able to rejoin that battle and stay out of the traffic. Ocon, they'll be hoping, and also Perez ahead of him. Should be fairly straightforward with the fresh tyres for him to overtake.
It was a great stop by the crew. 2.1 seconds. Best we've had this year was a 2.02 second stop by the Williams crew for Massa at Silverstone this year. So Bottas leads. Hamilton is in 2nd place. Vettel is in 3rd. Ricciardo 4th. Raikkonen 5th. And now Hulkenberg is in 6th place as a result of Verstappen's pit stop. Felipe Massa having to watch those mirrors closely now, though, because Fernando Alonso is all over the back of him. But of course, Alonso needs the slipstream really to drag him down the straights, because he doesn't have sufficient speed if he comes out of that slipstream to really stay with the Williams. And in the background, Sainz is still not far behind, not quite within DRS range. But of course, if Massa slows the whole process down, it's going to make life even more difficult for Alonso. So he'll be trying to work out what the next strategy should be. None of the top 4 cars have come in, but the 5th place man has. Kimi Raikkonen comes into the pits as well. Remember, he's fighting mainly with Daniel Ricciardo here.
Yeah, that's, again, seeing a gap in the traffic and reacting to, we've got to say, Verstappen wasn't too far behind. He'll be on a very hot outlap. So Ferrari covering the bases.
3.5 second stop, so not as quick as Red Bull, so they could perhaps be in a bit of danger from Max Verstappen. Let's watch for the Red Bull.
There is Max. I think he'll get out just in front, but it's going to be close, yeah, and he's got the benefit of that Force India sandwich as well.
That worked out well, didn't it, for Kimi Raikkonen? Ferrari had to respond. So yeah, it's probably more about defending from Verstappen than it was about chasing Daniel Ricciardo at this point in the race, at least. Raikkonen, who has won this race in the past, back in 2012. It was a race that Lewis Hamilton looked set to take victory in, but then had problems with the car. Verstappen now trying to pick up the slipstream behind Esteban Ocon to move up a place.
Now, does he want to do it on this straight, or would he prefer and use the next straight? Looks like he's committed to this straight.
That was a late move down the inside.
It was indeed. He will now be a little bit vulnerable on DRS with the Force India down into turn 11, but it looks like a good drive off the chicane.
Those new tyres are helping too, aren't they? Giving that traction off the corner, but Ocon is pretty close, but decides in the end to settle in behind the Red Bull.
I think Ocon quite sensibly saying, right, this is the long game. I just don't want to lose too much time fighting what is a faster car on a circuit that's going to be difficult to keep him behind.
And think about forward on B-bell and going up on your diffs just to keep your rear under control.
Just keep the talk to a minimum, please.
So Hamilton's working hard here, and I tell you what, Bottas is responding. They're putting in some great lap times at the moment, David, but they are within a few hundredths. You know, we've sometimes wondered about Bottas, as we see Ocon coming in. We've sometimes wondered, Perez, we've sometimes wondered about Bottas's ability, particularly in the early stint of a race. I don't see any weakness from him at the moment.
No, he's been strong. He built the pace during the weekend to lay down the gauntlet and set a lap time in qualifying that ultimately Hamilton couldn't beat. So the pace is genuine, and this was the question. This was what we're really, you know, when we spoke with Toto ahead of the Grand Prix, it was to understand his weakness of not being able to deliver early in the Grand Prix.
Oh, we've got a spinner. It is Pierre Gasly in the Toro Rosso, who's had a spin.
Second last corner. Will he head to the pits?
No, he stays out, passed by his teammate Brendan Hartley, who now moves up into 16th place as a result of that spin. And the Frenchman, who did the better job in qualifying, has made an error. Early days still in his career. We know that he's back next year with Toro Rosso, but from what we saw, it was probably just him on his own. Of course, there might have been another car involved, but for the moment, he's got himself back out in front of Marcus Ericsson. The only cars that are behind these are the two that made pit stops earlier on. They were Lance Stroll and Stoffel Van Dorn. They're catching this group.
Yeah, so just come back to Bottas. He's delivering the lap time early.
Car okay? All okay with the car?
All okay, I lost the rear completely.
Understood.
Yeah, managed to spin down the circuit. So it's they use quite a bit of curb on the excellent second last turn. So I guess we don't get a replay. I'm going to assume that he had already lost it before getting to the curb, because you see he spun inwards to be in the middle of the circuit. So Bottas doing a strong job, consistently setting new fastest sectors in that first sector as the fuel burns down.
Hulkenberg is in. Now remember, he's got a 5-second penalty, so the Renault guys have to stand aside for that 5 seconds to take place before they can go to work. There's the pause before they're allowed to touch the car, and then they go for it. Oh, and oh no, they can't get the right rear off. Oh, that's lost them a big amount of time. Oh, that's going to be painful. And where will they come out? Now remember, he was fighting with Perez, wasn't he? And Perez is just going down into turn 1 at the moment, having made his pit stop. Meanwhile, we're watching Alonso briefly here, still behind Felipe Massa.
He's out just in front of Perez, I believe. Hulkenberg behind Grosjean.
Oh, that still could be a close run thing, but that just about worked for the Renault pit stop. But that was very, very tight indeed. They need those points.
Like driving a rally car. Copy, Stoffel, copy.
Like driving a rally car, I think is what he was saying. So clearly the back end, he said earlier on the rear of the car was all over the place. I guess that's what he means. It's funny, you don't see that kind of with a Formula One car, when you're watching, you don't see that kind of sliding in the same way you might have done in the old days, or you do with a rally car, and yet from the driver's perspective, he feels it all the time.
Well, they're aerodynamically very efficient when they're driving directly into the wind and the wheel at the front is pointing ahead. The moment you start turning the steering, you're really just creating so much turbulence that you lose overall performance. Likewise, when the car gets sideways, they're not designed to drift. The tyres are not designed to drift. And you can see Gasly had already lost the rear before spinning out wide. But, you know, a rally car, four-wheel drive, and, well, that's over. It took a bit of a over-the-top evasive action, but you see the mechanics waited for that 5-second penalty. And it's questionable whether that is the right penalty, given that he gained the position on the racetrack. And then the wheel nut is retained within the wheel that goes off, and a fresh nut and wheel go back on, and you can see the frustration within the management.
Just explain what you meant about the suitability of the penalty.
Well, in the case of Hülkenberg, he's passed off the circuit, he gained that position over Perez, he's then managed to go and make more lap time than the 5-second penalty, plus the time of the delayed pit stop, and come back out in front. So yes, it's affected his total track time, total race time, but he still has the position over Perez, which is what the penalty is all about. So arguably in that situation, they should be, even if he was 2-3 seconds ahead when the stewards identify that a penalty is warranted, they should force them to have to go back and give the position back on track.
Do a race with these guys or not? Let's fight, let's hold them.
Do we race with these guys or not? And he's been told to go for it. Romain Grosjean is currently ahead of Hülkenberg, who's made a pit stop, but he's been told fight them, and then that's going to allow Sergio Perez to close in. So for Hülkenberg, it's pretty important that he gets past quickly. Another new fastest lap from Valtteri Bottas, as we must be getting a little closer to the pit stop time for the Mercedes boys who lead this race, and Bottas is still delivering. In comes Daniel Ricciardo. Let's just quickly watch this pit stop. Slightly slow on that one, well, quite slow compared to Max Verstappen's earlier, and that would have cost him some valuable time as well. And we'll see what the time is in a second when it comes up on screen. But Hülkenberg has got past, right, that's crucial. Hülkenberg has managed to find a way past Romain Grosjean, and Sergio Perez will be the next one to try and get through. I gather it was a 4.1 second stop there, so virtually double the time that Verstappen took. Karun.
That's because Daniel Ricciardo made a late call saying he had a puncture, or he felt that something was wrong. So the team had to really rush out to get ready for him to come in. It wasn't quite enough time to make a quick enough pit stop. So unfortunately for Daniel, that didn't work out. They were hoping to stay out. Strangely, 2 laps earlier, he was on the radio saying the tyres feel good. And actually, his pace on the Ultrasoft, despite being a used set, was actually faster than Raikkonen and Verstappen behind on the new Supersoft. So it's a real shame for Daniel that pit stop came a bit earlier than planned.
Meanwhile, I think maybe Nico Hülkenberg's got a problem here, David.
Well, maybe he overtook him by going off the circuit again, and he's allowed Grosjean to retake the position.
Right, maybe.
Because, yeah, as Karun was talking there, we saw Grosjean retake the position again.
In an unusual place.
Yeah, absolutely. So, right, let's
Here
assume,
he comes.
Yeah, taking the place back. So down at 11, I'm going to say that he must have gone off the circuit to gain that position on Grosjean.
Right, okay. So now he's got back past fairly. Of course, this is a thing he didn't do earlier on. I think Perez is probably getting even more furious behind all this, but Perez is now catching up. In has come Sebastian Vettel on his way once again, and Hülkenberg just fending off Romain Grosjean, having repassed him, but he had to brake super late. You could see the lockup that he went through, still kept control, and Sergio Perez, who probably still feels somewhat aggrieved that this has all worked out as it has at the moment, is still chasing Romain Grosjean. Vettel has come back out. By the way, Ricciardo, despite the slow stop, did get back out in front of Raikkonen. Now, what are we looking at here? That was before he called the pit stop.
Now, was that contact with the barrier? What were those? A couple of little winglets have come off the car. So there's multi-element front wings on these cars, so that could well be a front flap.
Oh, and Ricciardo's pulling off. So there's more damage than we thought. Daniel Ricciardo is pulling off the circuit. And it's we gather it could well be a hydraulic problem on the car.
Okay, mate, we've got a hydraulic problem. You're going to go mode 1 and switch off, mate. Sorry about that.
What a shame. Confirmation of yet another non-finish for the Red Bulls. It's the 6th for Daniel Ricciardo. It's not quite as many as Verstappen's had this year, but almost adding up to Verstappen's tally of 7 in the earlier part of this season. What a disappointment. And a hydraulic problem, well, that's part of the car systems, less likely to be part of the engine, the power unit aspect. Into the pits has come Lewis Hamilton. He has followed Bottas. Bottas has come in first, and the two drivers using this opportunity to come. No, sorry, Hamilton stayed out. So Bottas has made his pit stop. Hamilton is going quickly now in his attempts to gain the advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our timing screens here went bright with colours there. We get a red to confirm that Bottas was the pitter, and then Hamilton's gone purple, which tells us he's the fastest man on the racetrack. So he's responding to the fact that he knows his teammate was coming in. So Bottas is now going to drive this lap like it was his pole position lap, with the difference, of course, being he's only managed to burn off 22 laps worth of fuel. So it's still going to be heavy relative to what we've seen in qualifying. Fastest lap of the race right now, Hamilton a 42.4, which compares to a 36.2 in qualifying. As the marshals, well, there's a yellow flag there, but they're well within a safe position, I would say. And great to see the marshal support here. A lot of Brits and other international marshals making this race possible. And there's a lady there directing Daniel. He's got a bit of a sweat on, he's been working.
Yeah, he was chasing after that top 3, but it's not happening. Alonso's in the pits, but we're going to be waiting for Hamilton to come in. That's going to be the crucial moment. Good middle sector from Hamilton. Is it going to be enough? That's the question. Bottas is out there on the fresh tyres, of course, and it is the leader of the pair that gets that first call on tyres. So Bottas made his pit stop first, and Hamilton now presumably will come in at the end of this lap. We would expect that, at least. Let's wait and see. Now, I think he stayed out there for another lap, so they feel they've got a bit more performance in those tyres. That's really interesting, David. You'd have thought that he would have maybe come in, but he's decided to do another lap.
Yeah, well, this works two ways. It gives Hamilton a chance to show what lap time he's able to deliver. He's got a little bit of traffic ahead in Van Dorn, so that hopefully won't hold him up too much as we see this stop. Now, was there any evidence of something catch? Where was the carbon fibre bits coming from that we saw come off on the racetrack? No indication there, but Hamilton, well, let's hope he gets past Van Dorn cleanly down into 11.
His sector times are still holding up pretty well. First sector, still quicker than Bottas on this lap.
Yeah, but he can't stay out long because of that traffic ahead. We've got a whole bunch of traffic there, Ericsson and the likes, so he'll get 2 laps if he's lucky.
19.5 seconds the gap between them, and it takes 20 to 21 seconds to do the pit stop. So he hasn't got enough at the moment. He needs a little more. In has come the Williams of Massa.
Yeah, even if he hasn't got enough right now to overcome the fresh tyres of Bottas, going longer, as long as he can before he gets onto the back of that traffic, will give him fresher tyres for an attack later in the race.
Oh, look at the slide through the tunnel there for Felipe Massa.
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned in qualifying show that tunnel was an exciting, an excited designer who was going, oh, and we've got this tunnel, it's going to be amazing. It hasn't quite turned out as amazing because, of course, 1, the spectators can't see the cars in there, and 2, they're sliding all over.
Look at this, Massa versus Alonso, side by side. The two of them have made their pit stops now. Massa just coming out in front of the McLaren. What a crucial moment in the race, and I'm not sure that Alonso's going to be able to do anything, but he will have DRS. So is there a chance to outbrake him as they come down towards the chicane? Alonso's going to give it his shot. He's down the outside, but remember, as we go into the next straight, there'll be a chance for Felipe Massa to come back at him.
Felipe will have slightly dirty tyres. He went offline to defend. Look at that, the lack of traction as he came off the chicane. Alonso, he knows he's going to be slow in this next straight, but the smart man, he stood to the outside. And I think it's going to be too late for Massa.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great move by Alonso.
Yeah, absolutely. Crucial move there to gain the position after getting those fresh tyres on.
Meanwhile, Hamilton's going quicker than Bottas, still staying out there for the moment, trying to open up that gap a little more over his teammate. So Hamilton's on the ultra-soft tyres that he started this race on, and let's not forget, he did qualifying on those tyres as well. So they've done a fair few laps now, a total of 26 laps, including his qualifying lap. Bottas is on the super soft tyres behind.
Now, what might be the saving scenario for Bottas is Hamilton is coming up onto the back of Stroll and Ericsson. He's coming through 16, and we can see we've got the two battlers ahead. It looks like he'll catch them. He may well make the call now to head to the pits, but if he could get another clean lap, it may well be enough to then just get the advantage on Bottas. Mercedes are in the pits, and Hamilton's coming in.
Hamilton's chance then. Can he do enough on this pit stop to get out in front of his teammate? It's going to be very difficult, I think. But Bottas is pushing on hard. He's just improved his middle sector. That looks clean. He's on his way, but it's going to be tight.
This will be tight. Bottas is just coming into the last corner now.
Right, so he has to hold the speed limit until he comes down through the tunnel.
Bottas will be breaking into turn one now. He's going to have the momentum on Hamilton. You can see Bottas on the left. It's not been enough.
No, Hamilton comes back out in second place, so he's on a new set of tyres. Can he make these tyres work better than his teammate? The problem is he's still going to be behind his teammate in the slipstream, and it's going to be so difficult to overtake here with similarly matched cars. Well, let's wait and see what happens. Bottas setting a fastest lap at a crucial moment and earning himself that little bit of an advantage, over 2 seconds in fact the gap between the two of them after that little mid-race flurry as they try and work it out. Well, it's a little bit earlier than mid-race, but we're getting towards that point now, and Bottas has got a real chance of taking the final victory of the year here. I don't think Ferrari are really in the hunt. As we've gone on to the other tyre, it still looks as though the Mercedes has the better pace. So both the ultra-soft and the super-soft tyre, Mercedes the stronger car this weekend. So it will come down to the two of them. Can Hamilton now close that gap? He is going a bit quicker than his teammate, and he's definitely not given up on trying to win this race yet.
Now he knows they get a peak of performance from those fresh tyres before you then get into a little bit of over temperature and a bit of tyre degradation. Very low here, but well, Toto and Dieter Zech, the big boss of Daimler, both looking very calm at this stage. I guess you would be if you've won drivers, constructors for a few years running, and you've got your guys running 1 and 2.
It's all going quite well for them at the moment, isn't it? But which of the two drivers will emerge in front at the end of this race? It's Bottas by 1.8 seconds over Hamilton for now. Look how the lead is opening up over the Ferraris. 10 seconds away is Sebastian Vettel in third. Kimi Raikkonen in that fourth place now that poor old Daniel Ricciardo retired a few laps ago. Max Verstappen still in the hunt, and he's not far behind Kimi Raikkonen, almost within DRS range. Then there's a big gap back to the best of the rest. At the moment is Esteban Ocon, but he's not made a pit stop yet, nor has Carlos Sainz. So the first of the stoppers in the next group is Hülkenberg, and he's fending off Perez and doing what he needs to do at the moment for Renault to move ahead of Toro Rosso in the Constructors' Championship. Then we've got Perez, as I say, Grosjean holding on to 10th position, and Alonso in 11th, but ahead of Massa, most crucially. Pascal Wehrlein is yet to make a pit stop, so he's moved up to 13th place. Same news for Hartley and Gasly. They haven't made their pit stops yet, nor has Ericsson, but all those behind have done so. And then you've got Stroll, Van Dorn and Magnussen, and just the one driver who's out of this race, and that is sadly Daniel Ricciardo. Carlos Sainz is one to keep an eye on, because there's a chance for Carlos Sainz here to get involved.
Sainz only 21.4.
Okay, Megan, it's what we have, you know. I will love to go quicker. I will love to have more deployment. I will love to have many things. So this is what we have.
So they know the threat from Sainz is real after the pit stop, but Alonso saying he's giving all he can. Now, joining us from the pit wall is team principal for Red Bull, Christian Horner. Christian, can you tell us any more about Daniel Ricciardo's failure to finish?
Yeah, it looks like a hydraulic issue of some sort. He reported a funny feeling out of turn 19 and pitted immediately, which took us a little by surprise, but the boys did a great job to get it turned around. And then a lap later, we've seen hydraulic pressure lose. We're just having a look at a little replay, see if he actually touched the wall or not, but I think that was actually after he reported the first loss.
Right, because we did see some little bits of carbon fibre or something, didn't we, on one of the replays?
Yeah, we're just having a look at that. The guys back in Milton Keynes to see if that's contributed to anything. But it looks like a hydraulic issue, unfortunately, because he was doing a great job.
Yeah, he was. What about Max's race? Has he still got any chances of getting past Raikkonen, do you believe?
With Max, there's always a chance when he's the following car. So, you know, he's like a dog with a bone at the moment. So, you know, he's going to keep pushing, and we'll see what happens in the second half. It's a shame they didn't throw a safety car with Daniel. It looked like prime opportunity to put a safety car out there.
Well, up front, the two Mercedes seem to be in a class of their own. This is not like what we've seen this year. You know, you guys have given them a hard time. Ferrari have certainly given them a hard time. But we're kind of back to almost 2014 levels of domination here today with Mercedes. Why are they going so well in this final race?
Well, I think if you look at track layout, it really suits them. And you've only got to look at the history here of, you know, who's done the winning over the last few years to see that this track really plays to their strengths. So hopefully they'll have a good ding-dong between the two of them. Well,
it certainly looks as though it could happen because Hamilton's closing up. Thank you very much, Christian. Hope Max still has a good race to the end here. Now, as Brendan Hartley makes his pit stop, you can see how that gap is now varying at just around a second. This is great stuff from Hamilton. David, he is not giving up.
No, it is great stuff, but one peace of mind that Bottas will have ahead is knowing the difficulties Mercedes have had in the previous season following traffic. So their car's very efficient when it's delivered clean air onto its surfaces, and not quite so when you're following. So Hamilton will gain slipstream, he'll gain DRS, but he'll lose overall load on the car. Brake temperatures won't cool quite as well. No DRS at this point, just 1.2 seconds behind, so a bit too far, but you're still close enough to start putting temperatures up.
3 times a winner here, Lewis Hamilton. He's looking for his 4th. Meanwhile, sadly, somebody who's not going to get to the end of this race is Daniel Ricciardo, and he's talking to Lee.
Well, Daniel, a tough way to finish the season. What was the problem? It was there contact with the wall as well? We were trying to work out the order and what happened.
Yeah, it was, no, I got, I don't know if I touched the wall. I got close and I hit the curb a bit and I thought I had a puncture because I felt something strange. So I pitted. That was a really late call. And I said, sorry guys, but I think I got a flat tire, I got a pit. And but they did well to get me the tires in time, and then got back out, and I could tell already the steering was getting heavy, and that was a sign we were losing hydraulic pressure, and then I couldn't change gears. So it, yeah, in the end, no flat tire, just loss of hydraulics.
I think that's your 6th DNF of the year in terms of reliability. You'll be hoping for better next year. Yeah.
I mean, sure, I look back on some parts of the season with a smile. We had some good memories, so it wasn't all bad, but we ended, it was the last, 4 or so races was pretty hard to swallow. If we weren't finishing the race, we were having to start at the back, so yeah, it wasn't, I wouldn't say the last few have been that fun.
Thanks very much, Daniel.
Now, here's a little bit of an opportunity for Hamilton. They're coming into traffic. He's got the gap down to just under a second. He's in DRS range. Crucially now, David, he's got an opportunity.
Yeah, but also will Bottas, he'll get the DRS off of Magnussen ahead, so it'll end up being neutralised. So, yes, Bottas picks up speed and crucially gets that pass done before the first chicane. Hamilton's coming as well, so actually Grosjean very fair in not wanting to get involved in that battle. Now, does that trigger? Now, Hamilton won't have triggered the DRS off the back of Grosjean, but he has got it off of Bottas. Yeah. He has indeed. So this, Magnussen, excuse me.
But yeah, there is a real chance, and Hamilton gets a bit closer. This is really the first time that we've seen these two fighting it out for a race victory. It's wonderful to watch, and of course for Valtteri Bottas at the end of his first year with Mercedes, what an opportunity it is for him to show what he can do.
Yeah, well, you just need to look, if you know anything about Formula One, when teammates are getting along, it's because they haven't battled each other. Hamilton goes too deep there, so that's going to put him out of position. But when they're getting along nicely, it's because they haven't actually met on the racetrack. They haven't had a reason to really lean on each other and generally take away the fun. And Hamilton's had it pretty much all his own way this way to the championship battle. This is an opportunity for Bottas to get his elbows out. Hamilton still looks like he's able to apply pressure, but is that going to be enough?
Yeah, he's working the car hard. He's got it down to just over a second. If he can gain a few more thousandths on the run down to the hairpin, then of course he'll be back in DRS range. But again, Bottas is going to be assisted along the way by Van Dorn's car, which is just up ahead.
Indeed, Bottas is... The traffic's falling good, and an opportunity for Bottas right now. If he catches traffic around the later part of the lap, that'll allow Hamilton to close up.
Well, they're certainly putting on a show, these two. Last year, it was an amazing show between Hamilton and Rosberg when they were fighting for the championship.
Right. Hamilton will be in DRS. Has Bottas got anyone ahead? No, I don't see that he will, so he could well be vulnerable here. Good drive for Bottas off the chicane. Look for Hamilton's wing to open up.
It will allow him to get a bit closer, but is he going to be close enough? I don't think so. He's coming from a long way back. And against your teammate, you've got to give them that little bit of extra respect.
You can see Hamilton is definitely pushing on the brakes. His brakes were glowing red, but the line he was taking through the turn, he was going a little bit too deep through the apex, and his desire to try and close that gap up.
Oh, a little lock up there as he enters. Oh, and he's gone wide. That's going to cost him.
Yeah, he was deep in at turn 11. He's just gone deep again into turn 17, which is where we saw him go deep in the previous lap. Toto not too concerned. And we can see one of the former board members of Daimler there, long since retired, but a big champion of motorsport and keeping Mercedes and Daimler involved in motorsport.
Well, you can see how hard Hamilton is trying here.
Yeah. Okay, that won't... It might have given him a small flat spot, small bit of vibration. If he's got to go to the end on these tyres, that could well be crucial for Bottas.
A little bit of breathing space for Bottas maybe on this lap, though, because he's dropped away more than a second behind. Meanwhile, Verstappen is closing still on Kimi Räikkönen. The gap has come down to just over the second, 1.2. So this could still be one that can change before the end of the race. This would be for fourth place. Sebastian Vettel still hanging on in there in third position at the moment for the final podium slot. Down through the chicane, then up towards the hairpin. Looking for the exit here, but he's, let's just see, 1.3 seconds behind, so he still won't be quite within the DRS range that he needs to give him that extra slipstream down this long straight. But Verstappen's chipping away at the target of Kimi Räikkönen up ahead. Behind them, still a big gap to Esteban Ocon, but Ocon is yet to make his pit stop, and Carlos Sainz is looking good to score some points for Renault too. He will drop back behind Hülkenberg and Perez.
Push now, Pedro.
Pedro or Pierre? Gasly being told to push.
Yeah, he's definitely Pierre, but maybe the nickname within the team is Pedro.
We shall see, but Gasly, why are they urging him so much at this stage? Oh, he's just come in the pits, that's why. So they wanted as quick a lap as possible just before the pit stop. And he makes his way in, as does the Sauber of Marcus Ericsson, and those two are racing for position. So let's see whether Gasly's going to be able to get back in front. Yeah, that should be okay. Sauber right at the far end of the pits. Going onto the ultra-soft tyre, different strategy from these guys down at the tail of the field. So he'll now be on a quick tyre, coming back out onto the circuit. I wonder if he can use that to his advantage in the closing stages. Meanwhile, the battle between Bottas and Hamilton has kind of settled down for a moment. Hamilton really threw everything at it for a couple of laps, as we see Lance Stroll there fighting it for his position right now with Marcus Ericsson, who's just come back out after that pit stop. But he's on the fresh tyres, Ericsson, so you would think he might have a little bit of an opportunity. Mind you, he won't have the straight line speed in that Sauber that he really wants. Okay, two important pit stops being made. They are for Ocon and Sainz right now. And both of those guys looking to score some points here today. Onto a set of super softs for Ocon. And we're waiting to see Perez will come through ahead of him. And where's he going to be with regard to Grosjean? That's going to be interesting, but Grosjean hasn't made his pit stop yet, so we can kind of count him out a little bit. There is Grosjean coming through, but he's still to make a pit stop. So Ocon rejoins in 9th place, but effectively 8th position. Oh, and there's Sainz coming out behind Alonso. Oh, he's
got a problem.
Yeah, is the wheel not attached properly?
Yeah, it looks like front left.
Oh, what a shame.
Is that... It was...
or has he clipped the wall in the pit lane?
It's possible. Right, number of things that could have happened. Looks like the tyres are inflated. Let's hear.
Yeah, one tyre is not on.
One wheel not on the car.
Front left, I would think, then, if you look at the sparks that we saw, and he's now parked the car where Daniel Ricciardo retired.
Well, that has an effect for Renault.
One tire is off.
Okay, take a step, stop the car, please.
Yeah, well, there wasn't much choice for him anyway. Okay, let's have another look.
Just keep an eye on that front left.
Yeah, you can see straight away.
Yeah, look at the wheel. The wheel nut has not engaged properly, and he's now committed. Oh, he did very well to keep it out of the wall and within the pit lane. Because at that point, he's now committed to try and making it around the entire lap. It's very unusual, and that's what it means to be a senior member of the Renault management.
Yeah.
You've got to go back and explain to the CEO on Monday.
That's a tough one. Hulkenberg could still save the day.
Good effort, guys. It was coming like a nice one. What a shame.
Yeah, he was on target for points there, no doubt about it, and that would have really helped them. But Hulkenberg currently is doing enough to score them points. Grosjean has just made his pit stop. Karun, what have you got for us?
Well, a few laps ago, Bottas was given a radio message that Lewis is pushing hard and he's got to respond. They've just now come on the radio to him saying Lewis has had that lockup that we saw at 17 and gone wide. Valtteri said, was it a big one, as he flat spotted? You know, it's really game on between them. As Toto said to the guys before the race, they're properly racing for victory here. There's no team orders involved.
Great stuff, and it's really enjoyable to see the two of them fighting hard, because certainly the Mercedes team have got an advantage over everyone else, no doubt about that. Vettel way back, 14 seconds behind in third, and Ferrari I don't think are going to get their first win in Abu Dhabi, not unless the two Mercedes guys take each other out, of course. We have known that before. Let's hope it doesn't happen here, though, in the final race of 2017. So if it stays the way it is right now, with Nico Hulkenberg in that 6th place, then Renault will definitely beat Toro Rosso. Where are the Toro Rossos, we ask? Well, they're all the way down in 15th and 16th places. Not looking likely that they're going to score any points at all here today. The car really hasn't suited the track, and in fact, you go back the last 4 years, Toro Rosso haven't scored around this Abu Dhabi circuit. It just never seems to suit their car setup particularly well. So for both Hartley and Gasly, there's not a great deal of opportunity to move up into those all-important points. We're keeping an eye here on Lance Stroll. He's about to be lapped by Kimi Räikkönen. Stroll running down in 17th place and gives him space. But of course, Verstappen is close behind as well. And Verstappen won't want to lose too much time with respect to the Ferrari. The gap still around just over a second. And this should work well in going past down into the next turn.
Yeah, that actually helped Verstappen a bit more than Räikkönen. It's always a bit tricky when a driver decides to break into the turn and then give you space, because you cannot judge what he's about to do. So you tend to be a little bit cautious as you roll into the corner. And then, of course, Verstappen got the benefit of DRS down into turn 11. So he's closed that gap up to Räikkönen slightly, as Stroll, once again, a huge lockup. We've already seen him pit early for flat spots. We might well see him come in again.
Meanwhile, Hamilton did a great lap just last time around. He brought the gap down to 1.3 seconds again to Bottas, and he's still going quickly on this lap. So Hamilton putting another attempt to close that gap on his teammate. And the two of them have got some clear air in front of them now. So that may be what he wants, to try and get into DRS range when Bottas hasn't got any help from some back markers. Meanwhile, Ericsson on those fresh, ultra-soft tyres is having an attack here.
Yeah, Stroll has an issue. He just doesn't look like he's running at full deployment. Look how far he's dropped back from Verstappen already.
Yeah, looks like he is struggling a little bit, and Ericsson's all over the back of the Williams.
Yeah, there's definitely an issue as far as I can see. Let's see if we get any team radio. We saw him lock up as he was coming down into 16. Yeah, he's not revving the engine properly, so expect to see that Williams retire.
Oh, that's a shame for the Williams team. They've still got another car potentially scoring points, or 1 point at least, for Felipe Massa in his last outing. But he's got a decent margin over Romain Grosjean at this stage. Grosjean's worked his way up the order pretty well, though, bearing in mind that he started down in 16th place, and he's now got himself into 11th position He is some way behind Felipe Massa, but if there were any problems for those guys up ahead of him, there's still an opportunity for Haas to score a point or two. I don't think it's enough for them to challenge Renault and Toro Rosso, because the gap's just that little bit too big, especially with Hulkenberg up there in 6th place. But it's fun that midfield battle is still open to play for. Just looking at the two leaders, as once again Hamilton tries to chase down the gap to Valtteri Bottas. Karun.
Yeah, that midfield battle you talked about, Ben, that's a $9 million battle we're talking about here with Hulkenberg now. If he's in potentially that position to secure 6th in the Constructors' World Championship for Renault. And that's why you would keep seeing Jerome Stoll and Alain Prost there from Renault looking concerned. Radio?
Where is the Stoffel?
Stoffel P12. P12 had a problem.
Nothing we can do to help him getting the points. How far he is?
Well, thinking about his teammate, thinking about the team, but I think he's too far back. He's a long way behind Romain Grosjean.
Yeah, I think it's very public-spirited of Fernando, but running in 9th with no clear sight of where his teammate is. Very difficult to imagine he could back everyone up into Van Dorn. They've done their pit stop, unless they're expecting they need to go in again. We don't expect that to be the case. But I think Fernando is the sort of master manipulator, isn't he? So knows how to deliver messages and be seen to not be quite the ruthless racing driver that we all know he is. If the Renault power puts that McLaren back up towards the front next year, he will not be asking one question during the Grand Prix about his teammate.
Valtteri Bottas is still the race leader here as we go into the latter third. Hamilton is in 2nd place. Vettel and Raikkonen hanging on in there for Ferrari, 3rd and 4th. Verstappen still chasing Raikkonen. He's in 5th place, and the top 6 completed by Nico Hulkenberg. The two Force Indias of Perez and Ocon still looking to be able to score some useful points to finish the season. They're ahead of Alonso and Massa. Grosjean, that little bit outside the points. He's in 11th place. Then Van Dorn and Magnussen. Some good racing going on further back between the likes of Wehrlein and Hartley as well. They're all pretty close down there, but they're outside the points when they desperately need them.
Hamilton wants this. You can see the way he's positioning the car. It's not easy because Bottas is on form. And Hamilton will be looking ahead. You'll see a Grosjean ahead in the Haas, and then some other traffic as well. Grosjean, we know, has been very fair in allowing the faster cars to go, so you maybe won't get much advantage as you see Stroll. Is this just another set of tyres? Okay. No, wherever his apparent engine issue was, they've decided they can fix it with a new set of boots.
Oh, is that Gasly again? Yeah, it was. Another error from Pierre Gasly. Just overshooting the braking, David?
Yeah, he just carried way too much speed through the kink. When you do, then of course you've got lateral load on the car. That inside right is slightly unloaded, and it's all part of the learning process. You know, he's not been here in a Grand Prix car before in a Grand Prix. He'll have done tests here last year, but well, get all those learnings out of the way this year, and then he can mount a proper attack next season. And it's going to be interesting, you know, alongside Brendan Hartley, and it's a big opportunity for both those young racers, and which one of them will come out victorious will pretty much decide who gets promoted in their career. And if it doesn't quite work out, as we know, that Toro Rosso system, Red Bull system, can be quite brutal as well.
On board here with Lewis Hamilton, he has still got the target of beating his teammate very much in mind. The gap is still being held at around 1.3 seconds. Good stuff from both of them. Big slide there. Rear tyres perhaps showing a bit of hard wear.
Yeah, the degradation definitely, although it's not high, you're definitely not getting more grip from the tyres as the race goes on. But what we're getting into is we're lap 38. A lot of fuel's been burned off. The car's performance, its potential is increasing because it's lighter, so it accelerates more quickly. Drivers can be a bit more aggressive on the brakes, and it tends to come in sort of step changes. You don't just get, you know, half a tenth over consecutive laps. There'll be a phase where, because of tire temps, you'll stay around a certain lap time, and then all of a sudden you'll go 2-3 times quicker, and that's the potential of the car being unleashed, and it's the driver that can feel that coming and react to it. And of course, the car balance, the drivers have committed to any wing change as they took a different compound at their pit stop, but the rest is down to them. They are now stuck with the tyre pressures, stuck with the wing balance. They can adjust differential, just brake balance and the way they harvest their energy, but otherwise they've just got to get on with the balance they've got on this day.
Meanwhile, Ericsson right in there, tucked in behind Kevin Magnussen. Sorry, Wehrlein behind Magnussen. Ericsson a little further back, he's behind Gasly, but Wehrlein doing a really good job of staying with that Haas. Impressive stuff. He certainly worked hard in the early part of the race to do a lot of laps on the super soft tyre and then switched onto the ultra soft. So he's got these relatively young ultra soft tyres on the Sauber in comparison with the super soft tyres that are on Magnussen's car. A bit older, those tyres, and generally just a little less grip, particularly in the early phase of being used. So there is an opportunity here for Wehrlein, but it's proving tough to actually get close enough to go on the attack. And then you've got Brendan Hartley behind the pair of them. He's closing in bit by bit as well for Toro Rosso. Of course, the other half of that Toro Rosso team that he will continue next year, and we'll see what he can do there. But good stuff. He's getting out of the way of Raikkonen, though, and Raikkonen and Verstappen are still separated by just over a second. Verstappen will again try and hope that there's an opportunity as they come through the traffic to be able to gain a little bit more on Raikkonen.
So Pascal ahead of Magnus is one door, and he seems to struggle. Keeps the pressure high. Keep pressure high on both. You're quicker.
Yeah, Wehrlein's having a good run of this at the moment, isn't he? 14th place for the Sauber. That's a good effort from them. But they're about to be lapped, and this is where they've got to be careful, because they're in their own race, David, but it's so easy with the blue flags, the leaders, or some of the leaders coming through, to lose a lot of time to the guy they're racing against.
Well, that's why it's very important to sort of have that spatial awareness to know, right, where is my race today? Not just the traffic around, but picking a sensible place to allow the faster cars to overtake you. And my experience is that lifting slightly on a straight and allowing them to overtake costs you much less time than trying to go offline in a corner or lifting as you accelerate out of a corner.
So that little group comes through. Up front, by the way, Bottas and Hamilton still just 1.2 seconds apart. That was another quicker lap from Lewis Hamilton. They've almost got a pit stop advantage now over Sebastian Vettel. I suppose that might open up a possibility that Hamilton would make a stop, but he'd have an awful lot of work to do if he did that. Yeah,
well, what you're suggesting is that he can come in and put on another set of ultras, but does he have any new sets left? And then drive some qualifying laps, but it'd be a lot of time. You know, entire pit stop he'd need to gain against his teammates, so I doubt that could be an option. But it does show the level of dominance on this track, really suiting the Mercedes car. Ferrari starting the year with a win and then really leading the championship until well past the middle part of the season, but it looks like they've been well beaten on this circuit.
Now Raikkonen tucking in behind the Sauber of Pascal Wehrlein as he tries to go through, get the lapping done. Verstappen won't want to lose too much time to him, although he's just dropped back a little bit. He won't get past down into turn 8 here, and Wehrlein just eases off down the straight. Perfect, doesn't lose any time to the car up ahead, but Kevin Magnussen is just drawing away a little bit. Yeah, and it looks like, well, Verstappen might be too far back to get the pass on Wehrlein before 11, and that will cost him. You see, Wehrlein, Raikkonen, I know Wehrlein had DRS there, but Raikkonen not looking that impressive in terms of outright speed in amongst the Sauber. Look, Wehrlein there, looks like he's got his braces caught on the rear wing of the Ferrari. He's going with him. Yeah, he is going with him, that's right. Both Verstappen and Raikkonen made relatively early pit stops in this race, so of course the tyres have done a bit more work.
Yeah, this gets a bit messy now for Verstappen because you've got the Haas and the Sauber battling.
Meanwhile, Carlos Sainz has made it back after that faulty pit stop that unfortunately saw the wheel not attached properly. So Verstappen's got past Wehrlein now. And now this is where Wehrlein needs to kind of tuck in with Verstappen and try and take advantage.
Yeah, but you know, he's lost too much time here. Look at the Haas not playing ball, all that weaving around as Verstappen saying, look mate, and I know you can see me, but you're just not working with me. Just wait till we see visually when he gets past the Haas. That's a horrible place to let him through. That's just really poor driving on the behalf of Haas. Look how much time he's lost to Wehrlein as well. So let's just look at how that's played out coming through the traffic and how much time that's cost him relative to Raikkonen.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that gap in a second, but just to bear in mind that Wehrlein is right there with Magnussen now, so if he's going to have a chance at this could be, 2.6 seconds, as you said, it's come up to that gap.
Yeah, that's, I would say, poor performing from Magnussen. You know, he's had to go defensive now with Wehrlein. Wehrlein will have DRS. He might well pass him between the two corners here.
Oh, great stuff from Pascal Wehrlein. He's found a way past the Haas, but will he stay there? And look at Brendan Hartley joining in the Toro Rosso. He's got an opportunity to have a go at Magnussen as well. Magnussen may come back around the outside. Yep, he's got the power to do that. So Hartley needs to think about this. How can he catch them both out?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, well, just Magnussen, good comeback in terms of his battle there with Wehrlein, off the back of not very nice blue flag behaviour, but we'll see how that gets played out in the conversation between the drivers afterwards. I can't expect Verstappen's going to be putting him on his Christmas card list, and you're not out there to make friends, but you don't really want to make enemies as well, because, you know, at the end of the day, what goes around comes around.
Meanwhile, the two race leaders are still going quickly. Bottas set the new fastest lap on that last lap, but Hamilton's responding on this very next one, so the gap is still around 1.5 seconds between Bottas and Hamilton. So little to choose between them, and Bottas for now holding him off.
Come on, Brendan.
Come on, Brendan, says his engineer. Well, I think he's having a go here, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice little bit of racing spirit from his engineer.
Yeah, they're developing the relationship that will take them through next year as well, of course. So good stuff. They'll have Honda engines next year. And they'll be hoping that the Honda engine is a bit stronger next year than it has been for McLaren this season. But who knows? The developments that take place over the winter may well be enough for Honda to produce a much stronger power unit. Now, interestingly, Pierre Gasly's also catching this group in the background in the other Toro Rosso, so we could have a very close group here, and Marcus Ericsson's not far behind as well, so this could be quite entertaining. Magnussen definitely struggling a little bit for outright pace at this stage in the race, and he's under a lot of pressure building up from the Saubers and the Toro Rossos behind him. Gap up to 1.7 seconds up front on that last lap. Bottas again setting the fastest lap of this race. We're not quite in lap record territory yet. I'm not sure they're quite going to get the lap record here because the tyre performance is going away.
Oh my God, they're so fast on the straight.
They're so...
It's okay, Pascal, keep pushing. It was good overtake so far.
They're so fast on the straight. I guess that was when he came back at him, when Magnussen came back past him.
Yeah, he had DRS though as well, which adds to that. But anyway, it's a good little battle between them. But you very rarely ever hear a racing driver come on and say, oh, I'm just such a slow driver in the corners. It will always be an engine issue or something else.
Well, let's not forget, Sauber are still using the 2016 Ferrari engine, aren't they? At least next year the team will have the latest engine, the 2018 Ferrari engine, but I've been quite impressed actually that the team has been able to be more competitive in this last part of the year, so they must have made the car a lot better because the engine hasn't got any better.
Yeah, I think they've got good stability now in the leadership. We've got Fred Vasseur, a man very experienced within motorsport, an out-and-out racer, and you know, bringing an element of calm and stability to the team.
Karan, what are your thoughts on that setup there with Sauber? I mean, they're having a good old go here.
Yeah, they are. And just going back to your other point, Ben, I think from Malaysia onwards, they've taken a lot of weight off the car, and they have improved it. They brought different aerodynamic modifications. I spoke to Luca Fabato, one of their chief designers and head of their aero program, and he's quite optimistic that with the new engine, as you mentioned, they'll have next year, they can start to chase the midfield. So there is a bit of optimism there, and also lots of rumours about investment coming maybe from the Ferrari Fiat group.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? We will wait to see what happens there, whether Ferrari effectively make it into a junior team. That is some of the rumour that's going on. Might even be rebranded with Alfa Romeo, but let's wait and see. There'll be more news coming out on that. Ooh, bit of a hefty clout on the curb for Alonso.
Yeah, front wing end plate touched actually. If you're getting that just spot on, you managed to clout it with your tyre, which looks a bit brutal, but it's just about picking the shortest line through the corner at low speed. You don't lose as much aerodynamic performance when you don't have as much to lose, and that's why you tend to see at chicanes the drivers looking a bit brutal with the car.
Still there, Pascal Wehrlein, still can't quite find a way to close any further on Magnussen. Right, here we are with our race leaders. Look at that again. Hamilton has closed up a touch more, brought it back down to 1.3 seconds on this lap. and beginning to run out of laps in which to do it. We've got 11.5 laps to go, a little bit less than that, and Hamilton is trying everything to close up and put the pressure on Bottas, but so far Bottas is putting up with that pressure.
Yeah, I wonder what Mercedes as an overall team, whether they're still allowing them to use all of the engine modes, or whether they've turned them both down effectively. So improve reliability, take some stress off the engine, and then neutralize. They still go racing, but it may well neutralize a little bit the outright ability to get pushed to pass and things like that.
Mumford and Sons were playing last night, playing a gig here at the Abu Dhabi circuit, and it's the singer and songwriter Pink who is playing after the Grand Prix takes place here this evening. But who's it going to be that will be celebrating the victory? Bottas versus Hamilton. It's been throughout the race, nothing really to choose between them. So far, Bottas has soaked up all the pressure that his 4-time world champion teammate has thrown at him. But we're getting into the truly critical phase of this race now. Can he fend him off for the last 10 laps? That's what really counts, and what a boost it would be for Bottas to go into the winter knowing that he's taken on his teammate and beaten him in a straight fight from qualifying yesterday and into the race today. Look how far back the Ferrari is, David. That has to be disappointing for the Italian team. You know, they've been so strong. Just imagine if Vettel and Hamilton had come into this final race tied on points. He just wouldn't have been in the hunt at all here today.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And this, well, Ferrari were in a position to win the championship here with Alonso, and then strategic errors, and our own Mark Webber actually was in that hunt. There was a number of drivers could, and it was the only point that Sebastian Vettel led the championship was when he won the race and ultimately won the championship. So hasn't been a great track for Ferrari in the past.
Is that something they kind of need to address in the future? Because it's not a double points race like it was one year, but it's still very important. If you come here with a chance, you've got to surely think about favouring it a bit.
Yeah, well, I think Sebastian Vettel had said in a press conference yesterday they need to learn how to win on this racetrack. But Formula One is a data-driven business. They will be able to analyse centimetre by centimetre around the track where they're gaining and where they're losing. And, well, it's plain for everyone to see. They lose much more on this circuit and this type of layout. So it's a combination of factors. It's the tarmac, how it interacts with the tyres. How does the Ferrari bring the heat in and utilise the performance of the Pirelli? Drivability, top speed, it's a number of things.
You're doing a good job with the issues. We know we have 10 laps to go after this one. You're doing a good job.
Yeah, well, Stoffel van Dorn's just outside the points, but clearly putting in some consistent lap times. Bottas and Hamilton still separated by that 1.5 seconds. No change in this other group. There's Kevin Magnussen, still ahead of Pascal Wehrlein. Magnussen knows he's got a seat still at Haas next year, but Pascal Wehrlein doesn't know whether he's going to be back in Formula One or at all next season. His very slim hope seems to be maybe that other seat at Williams, but it seems unlikely that he's going to get that opportunity. We know the Williams team is testing a couple of drivers this week, David.
He seemed quite chipper though when we spoke to him on the grid ahead of the race. He didn't look like a man sort of with the weight of his career hanging on his shoulders, so that may well be that he's been given the nod. But yeah, as you mentioned, Williams, they've got test happening here after the Grand Prix, Robert Kubica, and a full assessment as to whether with the injury he sustained in that rallying accident, whether it's something that's just going to be a step too far to enter but if you're going to come back for a racing season, they've got to be taking a longer term view. 21 races doesn't cut it. Do they think he represents the future for that team? So we all wait to find out.
Meanwhile, Nico Hülkenberg here, 6th place, worth 8 championship points, and that would be enough for Renault to snatch 6th place in the Constructors' Championship.
Okay, Marcus, that's the right things what you're doing with the mode push, so...
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
Copy. Use overtake button instead then.
So there are a few things the drivers can play with on board the car to try and give them a little bit of extra power. Hülkenberg comfortably ahead of Sergio Perez in this 6th place, and what a result this would be for the team if they can jump ahead and get that Christmas bonus of millions of dollars, take them into next year, help the research and development funding as well for the team. You can see the nervousness within the team, the anxiety. Are they going to hold on They're absolutely dependent on Hulkenberg now. We know that Sainz is out, joining Daniel Ricciardo on the sidelines. We can see that neither Toro Rosso is anywhere near the points at the moment, with Hartley down in 15th and Gasly down in 16th, so it's all to play for. But Renault are looking good for it, and they are looking to snatch 6th place. Their target at the beginning here was 5th place in the Constructors. That was a bit optimistic.
Understood.
A lot of vibration, Gasly reporting there. May well be from tyres that have been flat spotted. Look at Hamilton, still there, 1.2 seconds behind as they come across the line. 1.4, it's just up and down by tiny margins all the time. Don't forget, you can vote for your driver of the day at f1.com vote. Who's it going to be? And I'll tell you one driver, sadly, who is probably not going to be, because he's one of our early retirements, and that is Carlos Sainz. He's talking to Lee.
Well, Carlos, a disappointing way for you to end the season for your two teams in 2017. But in terms of overall performance and what you've done as a driver, how happy are you the way that 2017's gone?
Very happy, and apart from this unfortunate outcome of this last race, I think we were doing a very good race. Like a bit, the year in general has been very positive, especially on Sundays, and we've managed to get a lot of points in the Toro Rosso first, and then in the Renault, and so I need to be pleased and happy with that P9 in the Drivers' Championship.
Two teams that you've been driving for have been battling out in the Constructors as well, but it's maybe not been the best day for Renault.
Well, it depends. From my side, it's unfortunate because I think we were on course for a points finish. We were clear already from Fernando and from Felipe. We were catching a second a lap Ocon, and Perez staying out in the ultra soft. So I don't care. If Nico finishes P6, gets those 8 points, and we finish 6th in the championship, my thing will just be an anecdote, and at the end of the year.
Okay, well done this year. Thank you.
So he's keeping an eye on the positions as we go into these final laps then. Hulkenberg clear on his own. He's 7 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. Just got to keep going. But let's not forget, Renault engines have had their reliability problems on a number of occasions this year. So it's not in the bank yet, that's for sure. We don't want to see any failures, but there have been plenty of them for Renault this season. It looked like Ricciardo's with that hydraulic problem we couldn't put down to a Renault engine failure here today, but we have seen plenty in the recent races. Look at Ericsson now getting right in behind Gasly, but we heard his frustration on the radio that he just couldn't quite find enough straight line speed to attack. But Gasly has made a couple of mistakes already in this Grand Prix, and maybe there's an opportunity for Ericsson to just keep applying the pressure. Bottas and Hamilton closer than ever, and actually a little jink out of the line. I wondered there, Hamilton really braking super late, but he wasn't going to quite get there. But look, he's got an opportunity this time. The DRS will be open, and as they head down towards turn 11, car up ahead. But
Alonso, yeah, he could play a part in this. Who's he favouring?
Bottas playing it carefully at the moment, trying to look after those tyres. Alonso up ahead. And presumably he's going to have to get out of the way pretty smartish. Blue lights are flashing. Look, he's let them both through very quickly.
Compromises maybe a little bit more Hamilton's line, just with the natural way of where they caught Alonso, but he was certainly very fair in getting out of the way of the battle.
0.7 of a second between them, as close as we've seen them for a while. Was there an error earlier in the lap?
Yeah, a bit of an under rotation as he went down into the chicane at 5 and 6. Got away with it, good reaction. This does seem Bottas on top of his game. He seems, although there was that small mistake there, we've seen already a couple of mistakes from Hamilton, so we're not going to criticise him for that, but he does seem a man very much in control under immense pressure.
It's funny, though, because all the two wins that Bottas has had this year, they've been under immense pressure from Sebastian Vettel, haven't they? Although not race long, but they were in the final stint, both in Russia and in Austria. He had Vettel breathing down his neck, and he didn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, well, I think if he's able to handle this from Hamilton, then in my book it takes more credit, because in the Ferrari, we know they had a good car and a winning car earlier in the season, so you could say that, well, maybe a track position, but on that day maybe Vettel had a faster package. Here he's up against the world champion in the same car, and well, I'd certainly give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, and it's been right from the start, hasn't it? It's been relentless, the pressure that Hamilton has applied. There is Sebastian Vettel, the man who's going to finish second in the championship, despite Bottas. Even if Bottas wins this race, then Vettel finishing third would confirm him as the runner-up in this year's series, and Mercedes won't get the 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship. If Vettel were to break down now, that would change, but as things stand, Vettel will remain the runner-up in this year's series to Lewis Hamilton. It's so interesting that comments he's been making to us on the interviews, to Lee just before the start of the race. His mind is so much on next year already.
Bottas Hamilton 42.4.
Why are they so slow?
There's some traffic.
Yeah, he's just wondering why their lap times were slow, and that's because they're going through traffic. But Vettel's mindset is so much on next year already, David. Fascinating to see in a way.
Yeah, but it also seems a little bit ironic that when he's so far back, 20 seconds behind Hamilton, and he's asking why they're so slow. Of course, he's focused on that one lap time. And we've just seen Vettel unleash a 41.2. That's the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Car's getting light, only several kilos of fuel on board, so they're starting to exploit the performance.
Still a second away from the existing lap record, which Vettel does own here. Back in 2009, a 1:40.2 was his fastest lap then, and that is the existing record for now. And it's funny, actually, 2009 he set the lap record here, which has stood that long. 2009 was a season in which he battled Jenson Button for the World Championship, and there were a few mistakes along the way, both by team and driver, and in the end Jenson won a very deserved title with the Brawn team which has become Mercedes. You kind of feel that Vettel's had a similar year. He hasn't perfected this year, but if they really get it right next year, we could see him perhaps go on another bit more of a winning streak. There's the Bottas family watching to see whether he can hold on for the remainder of this.
Oh, we don't see them at many races, but if you're going to pick a one to come to, then if Valtteri hangs in there for the next few laps, they've certainly more than paid their travel money with the bonus he'll receive.
Of course, Hamilton's been in this position before, chasing his teammate. Last year it was the other way around. Hamilton in front of Rosberg, and at this point Hamilton was busy slowing Rosberg down and hoping that third-placed Vettel would get past and maybe give him a chance of winning the title, but it didn't happen. On that lap, it's another new fastest lap by Bottas. Great lap, actually, a 1:40.7, taking quite a big chunk out of the fastest lap. So is he being really canny in this and just been looking after his tyres, or what?
Well, he has been strong at the end of other Grand Prix. It's always just in the beginning that he's tended to struggle. So he could well, of course, have a couple of engine modes available to him, and he's just using those up. Hamilton may well have gone in a bit earlier in his defence. That's one of the things, of course, we just can't have that information, unfortunately. It's certainly something that during the course of a Grand Prix, a team like Mercedes can exploit maximum engine mode like they would in qualifying for a number of laps.
So Daniel Ricciardo out, but chatting to his guys before the season comes to its conclusion. Just a few laps to go now, and Bottas and Hamilton remain first and second, and looking at a Mercedes 1-2 finish here with Vettel and Raikkonen behind. Verstappen still hasn't been able to quite close that gap up to Kimi Raikkonen. That's been almost as close throughout this race as the battle up front, actually, but still Verstappen there, he's just dropped back to 2 seconds behind. Then the big gap to Nico Hülkenberg, who's doing everything for his team. Let's remember, Hülkenberg was signed from Force India at the end of last year to join Renault on their climb back through the ranks, a former World Championship winning team, of course, and now they've got this chance to continue that climb and take 6th place in the Constructors' Championship this year, and then obviously try and move on from that next season. Then the two Force Indias. What an amazingly consistent season it's been from Force India. You know, they haven't had any mechanical non-finishes this year. Ocon had his one and only non-finish last time out in Brazil. Perez has had a couple of non-finishes, but they were damage related, usually with his teammate. But they haven't had a single non-finish from a mechanical problem. And for a team that's not as well funded as the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull, that really is tremendous. They're clear 4th best team this year by a huge margin over the likes of Williams and Renault. And they have delivered superbly again today. Behind them, we've got Alonso. He's going to score points again for McLaren Honda, the final points of the McLaren Honda partnership as it comes to an end. But it was nice to go along to their press briefing yesterday, David, and there's still a good relationship between McLaren and Honda. They haven't, thankfully, kind of slagged each other off too much through the year. And although it's going to split apart now, there's still a good relationship.
Yeah, I think the Honda representatives and the Japanese generally are just far too polite for that, but they've gone their separate ways. Toro Rosso will be the beneficiary of that power plant, and you know, there's rumours that they may well grow into a larger element of Honda's racing programme. So McLaren have made their bed now with the Renault team, and we wish them good fortune with that. We certainly need and would love to see Alonso being back as a main player in Formula One rather than picking up the odd point at the back.
Definitely, yes. Let's hope that he's fighting for podium finishes next year. Final point at the moment being held by Felipe Massa. That will confirm him as 10th in the outright championship as well, if he finishes in that position. And I think that will be a worthy end to his career. He hasn't managed a top 5 finish this year, and that's the first time ever, I think. But nonetheless, Massa's had a solid season. He's out-qualified his teammate Lance Stroll on most occasions this year. So a good final season, and really what Williams brought him back, which was to be the guiding light for Lance Stroll in a way this year. Now it's time to move on, but he's going to bring home a point in his final event. Looks like Romain Grosjean is going to be unfortunate. He's going to miss out on any points for Haas, and Grosjean is actually going to end the season pretty much on the same number of points. In fact, 1 point less than he had last year, but the same position in the championship, 13th place in the series, and we shall see if he gets that. Meanwhile, there's a bit of a battle still going on for fastest lap out there at the moment. A couple of drivers still chasing it down. Vettel did a 1:41.2 on that last lap, but Bottas did a 1:41.0. So there's still the honour at stake of fastest lap. It's interesting, the Ferrari is capable of that sort of speed because they've dropped away so much from Mercedes throughout the course of this race, but still a reasonably good lap time that Vettel's delivering. And for the moment, Raikkonen is still in front of Max Verstappen, but he's one to watch. We all know that. For the future, if Renault do deliver the engine that will give Alonso a chance, well, it will surely give this guy a chance of battling for the title itself, and we would love to see that. Max Verstappen, such an exciting talent in Formula One this year, having taken 2 wins in these final stages, but he's not going to be on the podium today. Up front, it is Valtteri Bottas, who has maintained control in this race, and the gap is surely much too big now for Lewis Hamilton to come back at him. It's opened up to 4.8 seconds, so Bottas just now needs to keep control on this final lap to record the victory, and he has delivered an astounding race, really, when you think about the pressure he's been on throughout. And what a comeback too, after a bit of a lean patch in the season, after the August break, where he wasn't qualifying as well as Hamilton. He was losing out in races compared to Hamilton, but he has fought back in this latter part of the season, and he has really shown well tonight. And what a time to do it, because it will take him into the winter break knowing that he can take on Lewis Hamilton. He can beat him in a straight fight. That pole position yesterday was crucial. Without that, he might not have done it. But he did it on the night when it mattered. He put the lap together. He started on pole. This time he made the best start of the pair. He got in front, and he has stayed in front ever since then. Valtteri Bottas coming through the last third of the lap now, beneath the Yas Viceroy Hotel for the last time at full speed into the last 2 corners. What a great drive it has been from the Finnish driver. Valtteri Bottas wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. He takes his 3rd win of 2017, but his first in 11 Grand Prix. It's a 1-2 for Mercedes, a hat-trick for the Mercedes team here in Abu Dhabi, their 4th of the season. I wonder who's going to end up with fastest lap in the end. Sebastian Vettel is going to finish in 3rd place, and he does a 1:40.7. So I think Bottas will have held on to fastest lap in the end. Yes, he has. So what a great celebration for him. He has taken pole position He has led every lap. He's taken the victory. He's got fastest lap. That's what they call the Grand Slam. It's his first ever Grand Slam in Formula One. And what a stunning way to finish the season for him. Time to celebrate. Those power units won't be doing any more after this. The cars will be put in the museums, and Lewis Hamilton, the man who's won the season-long battle to take his 4th World Championship, can celebrate as well. But Valtteri Bottas becoming the 2nd Finnish driver to win here in Abu Dhabi after Kimi's victory in 2012. And just another little point, all previous winners here in Abu Dhabi have either been or gone on to be world champion.
Yeah, thank you guys, thank you. Thank you very much for everything. Really enjoying to be here for this year, but also for these 16 years. So thank you very much, I love you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Felipe. It's been brilliant the last 3 years. It's been really good, really enjoyed it, so thank you very much.
And yeah, lovely to see Felipe Massa scoring a point on his final outing in Formula One, 10th place.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So well managed. Very well done, Valtteri.
Yes! What a result for Mercedes. We've seen plenty of 1-2 finishes from them over the last few years, but this is only the 4th of 2017. They had some real rivalry throughout much of the season from Ferrari and from Red Bull, and next year it might be even more difficult. But this guy will surely go into next year with a huge boost in confidence as a result of that. That's nice to see as well. The Ferrari joining in behind. Valtteri Bottas will end up 3rd in the championship despite his victory here today.
Well done, Lewis. P2. That's been one hell of a season, mate. Well done.
Yeah, P2 on this occasion, but 9 victories to his credit. Mind you, that's one short of the 10 he was looking for coming into this event. And the other big news is Renault have taken that 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. In the very last round, they have earned themselves around $8 to $9 million by doing that. The Christmas bonus is in for Renault, and Hulkenberg has delivered it for them with a fine 6th place finish, beating the 2 Force Indias of Perez and Ocon, with Alonso 9th and Massa in 10th. And let's not forget, of course, just behind the podium finishers, we saw Raikkonen in 4th and Verstappen in 5th position. But Hulkenberg's performance all weekend has been so crucial for the Renault team. You've got to feel for Toro Rosso, losing it in the last race of the year. Their 2 drivers finished down in 15th and 16th on a track that's never been great.
That's it, Nico. Fantastic. That's brilliant, Nico.
Thank you, guys. Good job.
Absolutely brilliant. Well done, mate. Thank you for your part. Superbly judged.
No worries. That's what I'm here for. Well, thank you guys too.
Well, the driver who still has to earn his first podium in Formula One, in some ways that 6th place today was a more crucial result for the team than Nico getting a podium. Absolutely brilliant stuff. But it's Valtteri Bottas who can celebrate big time along with Lewis Hamilton, as Mercedes have dominated the last event of the season. Bottas the winner. Hamilton, he's going to make the most of the opportunity here, Lewis Hamilton. And so is Bottas. It's going to be a battle of the donuts on the start-finish line in front of the main grandstand. Well, what a display for the people who have come here this weekend. And let's just hope they don't hit each other at the last moment. Bottas is the winner, Hamilton 2nd. Mercedes end the season on top.
Sorry guys, fighting.
Yeah. Freaking terrible to follow. Okay.
There is Emilia Bottas, Valtteri's wife, and there's a big smile on her face. She's an athlete herself. She swam in the Olympics for the Finnish team, and a record holder as well in the 50 meters in butterfly, but she has now retired from competitive swimming. But they're going to have some celebrations, aren't they? He's a very understated guy, typical Finn in many ways. He keeps his enthusiasm well under control, but he is a lovely guy as well. He did all those seasons at Williams, building his knowledge, his experience, and here he is now, a three-time winner.
Spotless. Good. Half pass, I guess you try. Impossible to pass here, man.
You can see it with the...
It's so hard to follow, bro.
It's like to truly spinning destiny.
Yeah. I was like, where are all the freaking back mothers? Anytime I could get close. I think they got to change this track. So now it's have to, because when you really lose it, is what's the last sector, right? Even the first sector, you can't follow.
Turn one.
It's impossible.
Okay, what about
It's a great place, just can't follow. Like I had good pace in that section.
especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
Quick confirmation that Renault have taken that sixth place in the championship by a few points in the end over Toro Rosso. 57 to Renault, 53 to Toro Rosso. Haas had an outside chance of moving up, but they remain 8th. They beat McLaren and Sauber, however. Sauber, the last finisher in the constructors' standings this year, but hoping for better things in 2018, obviously. Clearly, Lewis Hamilton feeling there should be some changes to the circuit. Interesting comments that he made. He loves coming here. They have talked about making some changes to this track, actually, over the years to enable overtaking a little more. Maybe they will look at it again, and maybe there'll be some more opportunities. The DRS system has made a little difference here in terms of overtaking, but clearly between evenly matched cars, it's still very difficult. So the guys are about to head out onto the podium for the final time this year. And by the way, all three of these drivers had 12 podium finishes coming into this race, and all three have scored a podium again. So they all finish on 13 podiums. It's surprising, but that's the way it is. But on this occasion, the race winner is the one who hasn't done as much winning as the other two. It's Valtteri Bottas, who has firmly established himself amongst the stars in Formula One.
down to Valtteri Bottas on his
So time for the prize giving to get underway here. And Valtteri Bottas picks up the trophy for victory. His third of the season, having won in Russia. He won in Austria, both under massive pressure. And there's the man whose seat he took at Mercedes when Nico Rosberg surprised us all by retiring at the end of last year. Valtteri was on the phone to Toto Wolff very quickly, and he has deserved that opportunity as well. Paul Petak, the controls engineer, picks up the trophy on behalf of Mercedes on this occasion. Lewis Hamilton has to settle for second, but it's been a great year. He still hasn't won a race after he's won a title in the same season. That's a funny statistic, isn't it? But he hasn't won a race since winning the championship in Mexico. And Sebastian Vettel gets another third-place finish with Ferrari here in Abu Dhabi. Yet to see a Ferrari win around this track, but surely that's a target for the future. Celebration time. A season that Bottas started strongly, dipped a little bit after the August break, but which he has recovered in these last few races tremendously. Going up against Hamilton is one of the most demanding tasks in F1. Even Alonso found it difficult in Hamilton's debut year of 2007. So to fight back like he has demonstrates some real tenacity from the Finn. And surely there'll be even more to come in his second year at the team in 2018. The final podium shot for the season. Mercedes have got two drivers up there. Ferrari have got the one. The page is about to turn into an entirely new battle next year. But Mercedes have ruled the roost on this occasion, and by quite a big margin. So, our own David Coulthard's going to be doing some of the interviews along with Martin Brundle.
Thank you, Abu Dhabi, and thank you, race fans around the globe. Our final race, sadly, of the season. And Martin, I think our first time on the podium together.
It is, David. Unfortunately, I think it's because I'm 6 months older than you. But what we are able to do, of course, is raise a glass to these three fine athletes who are on the podium. And we'll go straight to Valtteri. Valtteri, your third victory of the season, but surely the most important day in your racing career. In a straight fight, you've beaten a full-time world champion in the same car, same day, pole position, fantastic start, and you absorbed a lot of pressure.
It is really important win for me, you know, after having pretty difficult start to the second half of the year. Working hard on all the issues and getting better and better with everything. And this weekend, just, you know, pole win. Couldn't be happier to end the season like this, obviously. Again, congrats to Lewis for the title. Congrats to Sebastian for the second place in the championship. Our third this year, hopefully better next year.
Tell us what was going through your mind when Lewis kept closing the gap and then you were just managing it. I saw one tiny error down at the bottom of the hill, but you seem to have it under control.
You know, I was really managing the pace and that way the race. That was the feeling, and that was a nice feeling. Yeah, I had one bit of a lock-up when I was approaching one of the lap cars, but otherwise no issues. And the last 5 laps I started to go a bit quicker, managed to build a gap, and really pleased. The car was so good. And again, for this season, team, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it.
Over to you, DC.
Congratulations, fantastic effort. Lewis, you've been up on this podium many times. Your adoring fans there. You're a 4-time world champion, your current world champion. You're not used to second, but you gave it everything today, it looks like.
I did. Big congratulations to Valtteri. He did an amazing job today to hold me off. But it was a great race. I just gave it everything, every single lap. It's very hard to overtake here, so once you get to the last sector, struggled a little bit, but gave it everything. And I just want to say a big thank you to the team, both here, back at the factory. What they've produced us this year is just incredible, and it's a real honor to race for them. And then to have this amount of support here, thank you everyone, all the British flags. I love you and appreciate you, and looking forward to coming back strong next year.
Congratulations.
Sebastian, you secured So you secured second in the World Championship, but pretty lonely race for you out there today.
Yeah, it was. In the beginning I tried very hard. I think I had a good start, but then nowhere to go. Locked up a little bit and flat spotted the first set of tires a tiny bit with that. But then after 3, 4, 5 laps, I just couldn't go any faster, and they seemed to pull away, and from there onwards it was pretty lonely. But then I have to say in the second stint I really, got into the car, got into the rhythm, and I think we had stronger pace in the second part of the race. But yeah, not good enough to match those two guys. Congrats to Valtteri, very happy for him. And again, very much congratulations to Lewis on his season. He deserves to win the championship this year. In the end, I hate to say it, but he was the better man. So I'm sure, we will do our bit over the winter and hopefully come back stronger. Lastly, thanks to all the fans. The support for Ferrari has been incredible. So thank you very much. Forza Ferrari.
A lot of work to do over the winter if they're going to catch these two.
Indeed, and Sebastian, beautiful words there, what you're congratulating Lewis. Back to our race winner today, Valtteri. You're quite reserved in showing your emotions, but we saw some clips of your family in the pits as you were coming across the line. The feeling you have right now, this sets you up for a great winter ahead of next season.
We Finns, we don't maybe show emotion, but it doesn't feel like, it doesn't mean that we don't have any, I'm so happy. There's been so much support from my family and everyone. So, yeah, I can't show it too much, but I feel good.
Congratulations, Valtteri.
Thank you.
It's certainly been a good 2017. We've seen lots of emotion, some great races and great overtakes. It's a new era in Formula One, and I think it's a very good time to unleash Formula One 2018.
Well, who says you don't get freebies in Formula One? Look at this, I've got my Formula One official hat for 2018. We have our 3 winners here. Well, I get 2 hats. How lucky am I?
You're all hat, Lewis.
Gentlemen, well done. Only 17 weeks to the start of next year's championship. We wish you a really nice winter. I know the preparation starts already this week. Congratulations.
Yes, please do join us. We've really enjoyed your company this year, trackside and at home. It's the 28th of March. We'll be in Melbourne, just 17 weeks away. As David said, thank you very much for your company, and we look forward to a great season in 2018. 21 races.